Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are today. Welcome, everyone. We are here with our panel, our normal panel. We have Eileen with us, and she's been wonderful helping us be cohesive in our sessions. She has her own wisdom when she expresses it, sometimes very deep sharing. So we welcome her. We have Kelly, our Qigong teacher, with us. Good evening, Kelly. April, our psychic medium, healer, spiritual teacher, is with us. And Travis, our musician, our own one and only musician, extra talent on the docket, as they say, and a spiritual teacher in his own right. So let's get started. Um, Good evening, everyone. It's an honor and a privilege to have all of you here, as well as anybody that's out there. So uh, absolutely grateful for all the wisdom that is shared, the insights that are shared. One of the things that we were talking about last time, and I know, Travis, you have to leave within an hour. So I will open the floor to you. So this is something that I detected during that post is the inability of us, Kelly and you have talked about it, Travis, that there are these deep, dark corners, right? And we are really going. So spiritual work. Jan Van Zandt has a uh, very good analogy. Like she says, it's almost like it's a oozing wound. It's a huge wound with pus and blood coming out, and now you're digging, right? You're digging in the wound to actually fix it. That's how spiritual work is, right? And it takes a certain state to actually detect the things that y'all were talking about, Kelly and Travis, the dark corners. So I will open up the question as, do you remember, can you take yourself back to that one state that you were in where you saw one deep, dark condition pattern that was an eye opener? Like you went, wow, this exists in me, right? What was that state? So that everybody out there and everybody here kind of, we think that the ego is like we are going to use our thinking mind to find the answer. It never is a thinking mind. So I want you to explain the state that you were in when you saw the light, like you shone the light on what that pocket was, that dark, deep, deep, dark. It could be shadow, our dark shadow, right? And we'll go into the shadow some other time. But what does it take for a human being to actually look into the dark corners? Travis, it's yours. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Um, well, I think that it's worth acknowledging that um, there are sometimes things that we don't even realize that we don't want to look at inside of ourselves because maybe it's so painful to look at, or because we don't know how it will feel or what it might bring about. And so I think it's worth noting that it's amazing sometimes. It's almost evidence of how intelligent human beings can be when we actually do begin to spot our avoidance tactics. You go, wow, if I could only use that for good. It's ingeniously clever. or there is some intelligence there. It's just not in the service of awakening. It's not in the service of, and so um, what I'll just share a couple things that come up for me. One, for me, this has been an ongoing process that moves in a cyclical sort of way. And I've been realizing more and more that the growth and evolution or flowering of my being is not a linear path, but a cyclical path. And there are places I pass back over time and time again, and things become a little more light and a little bit more open and unpacked and free. And I had a dream maybe earlier this year, sometime in the first couple of months of this year. And I woke up in the night around 1:30 and from the dream. And I remember having an insight in the dream that I have to bring it all out into the light. And it was almost like, dreams are pretty abstract. So it was like there was almost like a doorway under a stairwell that I had found, opened up, and there was all of this. But it was stuff inside of me almost. And it was almost like these little children or something that I was helping to pull out, get out from under this staircase. And I and I remember having that deep insight in my heart that it has to all be brought out into the light. And I realize that that's true within myself. It's true in life. It's true in all of us. And so every forgotten aspect of who we are, every forgotten or corner of who we are, or things that we might overlook or not want to look at because we're afraid. Ultimately, I think we have to offer our affectionate attention, or soft, affectionate awareness to bring in and embrace all that. And right now, I'm very fortunate to be living in the house that I'm living in. It was a friend of mine through my meditation community. Was her mother's house. Her mother passed away a number of years ago. The house has been empty for years, for the past 5 or 6 years. And it was so, I couldn't even breathe well when I walked in. You could smell all the dust of old books and clothes and spider webs. And so I've been cleaning this house. And I thought, wow, I have this beautiful home in a beautiful neighborhood, wonderful neighbors. And lately it keeps dawning on me. I just go, wow, what a gift. Not only do I have this wonderful place to live right now, but it's come with all these invaluable lessons that I can carry with me and take with me through, my journey. And I remember waking up one morning, laying in my bed going, this is me, this house is me. And I'm actually having an externalized experience of what I'm going through inside, of taking everything and every corner and dusting everything off, cleaning things up, deciding what's worth keeping, what's, in this case, I have to keep stuff it's not all my stuff. So, but the metaphor is not lost on me. And so I feel like I'm going through this practice of going through all of everything I've been carrying inside of me that aren't so obvious objects, right? Because they're emotions and they're thoughts. And my sense of self and identity is wrapped up in those thoughts and emotions. And so it's helping me to go through and offer them some attention and really set them free, because ultimately I don't have to be identified with form. I don't have to be identified with limitation. I can watch all of that pass through me, and it is me. But as all forms come into being, they eventually dissolve, and I will be no less who I am when they do. So, so that's what I have to say to that, just to speak to the, that kind of dream I had, and that my house situation, and and that it for me has been something. Maybe when I was younger and a little more naive, I would have thought I would just face it and move on. And but I've noticed in my experience, it's actually been a real process and a journey, and just to have a tremendous patience with it. And maybe it never ends. Maybe there's always things coming in. I'm just processing them and digesting and assimilating. I really don't know. So I'll
It's
leave
a
it at that.
it's a beautiful metaphor, Travis. But what I would say is maybe this year is the year that you have enough presence power that you're willing to look at anything and everything. If somebody were to say last year, our ego would say, no, 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 that's not my case. Like, we were talking about abandonment um, last time. And what I told Maria, who I know has moved from Ecuador, right? She's moved from Ecuador to the US. So I told her, do you see one abandonment that you yourself, I mean, we can clearly see in that one act, right? Did you not abandon your family and your country? I have abandoned my family and my country, right?
Mhm.
So it's that kind of clarity that we need to have,
Yeah.
right? Not say, oh, the abandonment, my mother abandoned me, or my father abandoned me, or my relatives abandoned me, or my friends abandoned me. I abandoned.
Right. Yeah.
And like Kelly says, the original abandonment is our abandonment from source. But look at that, right? Shine the light on my own abandonment,
Right.
right? I own it. I take responsibility that yes, I left the country and moved to the US. And it has brought it's a moment of grace, right? That choice actually, I wouldn't be talking to all of you if I was still back home in India, right? I wouldn't be running a I mean, there's gratitude for the abandonment, but I have to own the abandonment. I cannot say, no, I did not abandon my country or my family, right? So not only have we karmically absorbed the abandonment ourselves, we have also caused it, own that. So I'm thinking that in our presence, so that degree of presence is required, which is what you're demonstrating. You're a huge demonstration of that you have enough presence power that you're willing to look at, this is my responsibility.
I want to take responsibility for sure. Yeah. And lately it feels more and more like that it's that it does get all sorted through. And it's like I want to speak to forgiveness. Like I feel like recently I had this life experience where all this stuff that I was carrying in me, it kind of culminated into this big life experience, and everything kind of exploded in front of me, and so much was revealed. It reflected back to me, and I felt wronged, and I felt like I had wronged others, and I felt hurt, I felt abandoned, I felt all these things. And lately it feels as though I'm moving more and more into this space where it doesn't feel like anyone did anything wrong. I don't feel like
Perfect.
it's all okay, and everyone is innocent in it. And that feels good. I go, oh, that's the, I remember what that feels like, to not feel so hurt. And so I think that but it is, yes, it's through acceptance and through a willingness to be with whatever comes up, and treat everything with the same kind of tender gentleness that one would, like a child. Treat everybody. And I want to. That's what my hope or aim is, to be able to treat everything inside of myself, and really all who I encounter, with that same kind of tender, affectionate awareness. Ultimately.
Perfect. Thank you, Travis. Kelly, it's your turn. You're the next person that has talked about deep dark corners. So what was your state? What did it take to actually examine the deep dark corner?
Well, my first conscious experience with this was actually when I was about 6 years old. I was a very happy kid, but I also had a temper. And my brother and I would get into an awful lot of arguments. And there was one argument where he was triggering me very deliberately so, because he thought it was funny to get me angry, because he was much bigger than me, so he wasn't scared of me. And there was a part of me that wanted to hurt him, that wanted to pick something up and hurt him. And, you know, I stood there shaking and just very both gleeful and terrified at the same time. And it's very confusing, you know, I'm 6 years old, but I stopped myself from hurting my brother in that moment, and watched how my voice inside my head freaked out and started, being very angry with me at not following through, at not using the opportunity to, because if I'd actually hurt my brother in that moment, I would have been totally vindicated, because, my mom and dad could hear my brother taunting me, et cetera, et cetera. And I could feel this part of me that was really upset that I didn't take the opportunity to hurt my brother. Now, this is the first time that I remembered. It was, we used to play board games and stuff like that together, and he would make up rules, and, every once in a while, just to win, right? Older siblings tend to do this with younger siblings, and it just, I'm 6. I don't have any real control, but it was the first time that I, observed and stopped myself. And, I actually had an asthma attack almost right after that, because the tension in my body was just so sudden from stopping myself. I didn't understand what I had actually done in that moment until many years later. And over the course of growing up and being a teenager, I got better at stopping myself. Still ended up being sort of very angry as a teenager, doing the teenager thing, learning, trying to find my identity, and trying to, push my family away to make my own, identity, not knowing how much my family was actually teaching me at the time. And, years later, especially the last 20 years, where I've been very, very conscious, very understanding of the need for deliberateness and going inside and developing that connection and align with my heart and my breath, and how to take my Qigong practice and, my meditation practice into a discipline of self-awareness and a discipline of true alignment. And discovering those spaces that I did not want to look at was, again, very joyful, but also exceptionally terrifying at the same time. Probably the single biggest moment of looking inward and challenging and facing one of those spaces was when I got divorced. Because I woke up one day and I knew with utter complete, every particle of my being agreeing with me that this space needed to end, and I needed to get a divorce. I needed to move on. And I knew that. But it took me 3 months to actually do it. It took me 3 months to get up the courage of accepting that space, understanding how loud that space was, and looking at it and feeling that there was no other option, that I could not change the person I was with. I was not meant to change the person I was with. I was not meant to continue doing as much work for, supporting that dysfunctional space. And in those 3 months, all of the previous moments of looking at, spaces that I did not want to look at, which is very uncomfortable emotionally and mentally, because our patterns are to not look and not believe that we have to look, that we can think our way through something, that we can just analyze, and those spaces will go away. And this whole experience, these 3 months, basically one space after another, just sort of like stacked up like a Jenga tower, and built up this weight of awareness, of feeling how much information I had accumulated, of feeling all of these spaces that I had not wanted to look at, and how they're all connected to this same space of not wanting to actually have the conversation with my now ex-wife about getting divorced and separating, and how we were just hurting each other, holding on to this dysfunctional space. So I like to call it shadow work. It's been called shadow work by other people, because these spaces are embedded, buried in those spaces in shadow, where we have other things that are going on in our lives, and in between those other places where there is shadow, or we haven't been looking because we're so distracted with everything else going on in our lives, is all this information about what we are not looking at. And
Is it, I'm sorry for interrupting you,
no, go ahead.
but
Go
I
ahead.
have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Is it like, do you have a conditioned pattern that a happy life is two people being married, the white picket fence, the two cars, the
No.
two children?
No, I do not.
So that was not why you wouldn't look at a dysfunctional marriage?
No, I would not look at it, because I was trying to be like the rest of my family.
They are all married? Okay. So
They're all married. They all have
basically,
kids. That's the family pattern.
I'm pointing out to a conditioned pattern, yes.
Yeah. So my pattern was hiding from the fact that I did not fit into that. That it wasn't
Oh,
needing or wanting the. I've
Mhm.
never actually wanted the white picket fence and the family thing, even though I'm now de facto doing that. It was the fact that I was hiding from that, the dysfunction in my marriage and my relationship with my ex-wife, was what I was hiding from, which is the conditioned pattern, which is a caretaking pattern. And caretaking runs in the family. It's one of those things. Sometimes it can be used for great benefit, because it brings out the supportive aspects of people's personalities, because they understand innately how to take care of other people. So that's very, very natural, but it can get into an emotional dysfunction when we hide from ourselves in the caretaking, in the other person, in the project, in overworking, in the, a relationship, or in drama, in just letting ourselves get hijacked and taken for a ride in other people's drama and other people's lives. That's a form of caretaking emotional dysfunction, from my perspective and my personal experience. So looking at this caretaking issue deeper, I realized how all of these other situations with friends and family were all about my emotional caretaking pattern. And because with my family, everyone's married, everyone has a family, everyone has kids. Part of me was going, well, I want to be accepted and loved by my family, right? So let's appear to be as normal as possible and as acceptable as possible, and build this family thing, right? So that's what I tried to do. And the more I pushed at making it happen, the more everything inside of me screamed to not do it and to stop what I was doing. And that was literally the feeling inside of me of like literally waking up and having this voice in my head screaming, which I now understand is my voice and my heart's voice, just going, you know, what are you doing? We're still doing this. What are you doing? And it took a lot of courage, a lot of forgiveness and acceptance and loving kindness towards myself to let myself feel that space, see that space, and build up inside of me the space for my voice to actually step forward into accepting that I needed to do that, that I needed to take this step and step out of that pattern of caretaking and self-denial. And Travis, I love what you said about the kindness and the loving space for oneself, because that is exactly what I've discovered and experienced in terms of dealing with these spaces on my own, in my own practice, my own life, of having to forgive myself. And forgiveness is such a huge part of it. And I completely agree, Travis. It's like I've gotten to a place where I do not feel that, you know, anyone is wronged. I do not feel that anything bad happened, because the learning that has unfolded from that whole relationship I had, just the learning, you know, there's no words to convey the gratitude that I feel in hindsight. There's no gratitude. There's no words to convey the depth of gratitude and the love I feel for myself now, because I mean, I can look back on it in hindsight, and I can accept and I can love myself for seeing what I was actually putting myself through, for seeing the strength that I gave to myself, that I reclaimed for myself by stepping into my voice and expressing what I needed for myself, and how that changed everything afterwards, and how loving myself and being kind to myself and not beating myself up and accepting that that is what I needed. I knew it. I'd known it for a long time. As I said, it took me 3 months to build up that space of actually expressing myself, because the weight of feeling that space that I had been ignoring and not looking at, that shadowed space of my awareness, was so loud that it was inescapable. Like I can no longer ignore the feeling and the weight of its knowledge. And I had to look at it. And yeah,
So what I think is somehow the space that actually the time, just colloquially saying the word time, the point that you were at.
yes,
So the thinking mind will keep the conditioned pattern up of
Yep.
I need to be married, I need to be married. So somewhere between your Qigong practice and your meditation, presence took over the thinking mind. And then you were able to say, presence was able to say, yes, this is dysfunctional. Because your thinking mind cannot say this is dysfunctional. The thinking mind actually wants to recycle. The thinking
yes,
mind wants to reincarnate into the next form, which
yes.
is the dysfunctional marriage.
Yeah, the monkey mind wants to keep repeating the pattern,
So
banging those symbols together, making lots of noise, and with the shiny things.
Eckhart has a beautiful talk called Transcendence Through Stillness. And this is the transcendence. So this is a beautiful example. Thank you, Kelly and Travis, for being exemplary in your suggestions and recommendations. But if everyone is able to understand that in our lives, at some point, the person that broke through the pattern, presence took over at that time, whether it was Travis or whether it was Kelly. So we're going to hear from April. Thank you, Kelly and Travis. Go ahead, April.
Hi. First, I have to apologize for yawning. My body is trying to get another sinus infection, so I'm not bored. I'm very interested, but I'm doing this yawning, so I don't know. You know, for me, there are several points in my life where I was trying to change myself, change not only my patterns, but my family's patterns. generational patterns. My goal, again, was that if I heal myself, I can therefore heal my children. But there are a couple really key points. One was when I divorced my first husband. I had come from an angry home, and then I went right into an angry marriage, abusive marriage, at the age of 15. And when I left that, I just wanted peace in my life. I just wanted peace. I wanted calm. I wanted love. I wanted peace. So that sent me on that journey. But I have to say that it's only been recently in the last few years. Well, there was one other spot where, with my mother, my mom never understood college, and it took me 17 years to get my master's because I was a mom, I was single, I was working, I was going to school, and she never understood the concept of how long it takes to go through a semester. So I had brought her my grades, my report card from college a day, and she's looking at it. And I had taken 3 classes and, working in the 3 kids at the time. And I had 2 A's and a B. And she looked at this and she goes, well, that's not a B. That's not an A. And I was like, and that very moment it clicked. I said, you know what? I'm never going to make you happy. So my shadow was, I was never good enough, right? I was never good enough. I could never. And at that very second, I said, you know what? I don't care anymore. No longer care. I don't care what you think. I don't care what Bob thinks. I don't care what Sally, I don't care. That's it. I'm done. And that was such a liberating moment. But that was my shadow the whole time, was not being good enough. And then within the last couple of years, it's really the drive, I think, is the one thing, the willingness, the want to be better, to have peace. I think that's really been the key. I really want to have peace more than anything. So with that, I practice the forgiveness. And Wayne Dyer said this, where he said, where is that teenager? Where is that person? Go get them. You can't go get your 15-year-old self. They're not here. You are no longer the same person because you now have new knowledge. And that's how I kind of look at everything, and everything that anybody's ever done in my life or done to me or I've done to them. I'm not the same person I was. So I may have screamed at you or something, but I'm not that person anymore. I'm in a different spot. So I do think that the shadow work is important and that we all have those things. And I think that if you're willing to have peace and you're willing to learn, you will, at some point, presence will take you over and you will accomplish it.
So that seems to be the running theme, that a higher degree of presence needs to arise in that human. If it doesn't arise, we are not able to see the dark corners and admit the dark corners, to admit our shadow. We have to look at, that's what is needed, the presence power, the awareness, the alignment within our beingness. A certain amount of alignment within our beingness is needed, and the presence practice, the group meditations will help. Your daily practice will help. Daily practice of meditation will help you increase your presence power. So thank you, April, for that. That was exemplary as well. Thank you. Eileen, you've been on a journey the past year, so you want to share some of the deep insights? And I know there's a question, so we look at the question.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I from your original question and then listening to everybody here on the panel, a couple of things came up for me, because there were things in my past that, like, I had sworn that I had addressed and had accepted them and forgiven, that I had been healed from. But then through this last year, this journey, it's like twice now in like the last 6 weeks where something has come up, either in here in our live session or in a meeting with another spiritual teacher, where it's been like, whoa, wait a second, where did that come from? And it's like deep, dark, like things that, my mind had told me I had gotten through and processed. But it wasn't until it was like, right there in front of me and me still and present, that I actually was able to kind of accept them with my, my spirit, my soul, because those things that I thought were, processed and had fully accepted, obviously I hadn't, but didn't realize. For me, the one was suicide that's in my family. And so, like, I thought I had gotten over the attempt from my father. And I was in a session with another spiritual teacher, and another person in the group was sharing about suicide and sharing like her perspective. And it was just this whoosh came in of like constant like emotion. And I was like, whoa, wait a second. I thought I was over that. And I wasn't. Within a couple of days, kind of gotten through it. But the same thing happened last week when April was sharing about her mom. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, here it is again. And I thought that I was over that like 40 years ago. But then to sit there and like hear her speak and then realize that, her abandonment, my biological mother abandoning me, like that had nothing to do with me. And so like, even though I kind of thought that with my mind as a teenager, now thinking about that, just in complete presence, I was like, oh. And even since last week, there's been a couple of times where I've been in meditation where I've kind of like felt almost loving kindness for her, even though like I haven't spoken to her in probably 30 years. But like, just, even she still gave birth to me, even though she chose that path. But and so that's like huge for me, because more than half of my life is, without her. But it's crazy. But yeah, I also think it's like Travis was saying about it being like a cyclical pattern. So it's like I might have partially processed things like with my mind, but then here it is again. And then it's like kind of coming more into it.
It's
now,
showing that it
presence.
has not processed yet.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you. Great
Eileen,
wisdom.
Eileen,
Yes.
Travis, I think that where it's a pattern that it comes back today. I decided I was going to clean out my closet. I have this closet where I start buying Christmas for the 100 kids I have in like March. And I have to clean out this closet. I can't even get to my clothes. I have 12 grandkids. So I started cleaning out the closet. I came across this box. This is my mother's box. My mother, it'll be 6 years, 5 years. She just died. She just passed away. So I'm like, okay, I need to let me go through this box. I open it up, and in the box is a bunch of newspapers and letters and Christmas cards that I gave my mom. And there is a letter in there. My whole life, my mother denied the fact that she gave me and my brother up. She even had my third daughter convinced that I was a liar and that I chose to go to my dad because my dad had a swing set. Mind you, I was almost 6. I was about 6.
I'm laughing because this is totally what my biological mother would have done.
So I pull out this letter today and I read this letter, and it is from her friend from March 28th, 1979. And it says, I can't believe you let Kenny have April and Chad. Let me know if you need to get your together. And I'm like, she denied she lied. It's right here. I got written proof. So again, today, there was a couple tears, and I feel like I dealt with this how many years ago? So I think it's always a layer. It's always, like I'm okay right now, but at that moment I was like, oh. So yeah, that was my experience today.
But I think, April, what happened was last Wednesday when you released that, when I said, right, she had a soul contract with you.
Yeah.
And Eileen had a soul contract. I think you teared up, and there was release, right? You released her, and in that you got the gift of the letter.
Yeah.
You would never have gone into that closet if the release would not have happened on Wednesday.
No,
Like I'm
because
telling
do
you,
you
right?
know?
It's very interconnected. It's very interconnected.
Yes.
We don't know why all of us are here and why everyone that is right now listening to us is listening to us. But like Travis has said a couple of weeks back, we are very, very interconnected. We don't know why somebody is, and everybody has to, um, like when they hear something, listen very carefully. Why is this person actually talking about this soul contract? Does it apply to me, right? And where all can I review back in my life where it applies to me, that I had a soul contract for this person to be as unconscious as possible towards me, so that I could learn forgiveness, so that I could expand, right? Eckhart says the evolutionary impulse of the universe. What is the evolutionary impulse of the universe? When the Big Bang started, it's inflation, it's expansion to infinity. What can expand to infinity within us? Loving kindness, compassion, unconditional love. If we are not moving towards unconditional love, then we are not expanding, and the universe will keep pushing. The cyclical pattern will keep repeating until we move towards unconditional love for whatever that cyclical pattern is, right? And Eileen, thank you so much. That's beautiful. April and Eileen.
Yeah, I keep getting, here's your sign. It keeps coming. It keeps coming
Hit it
back.
out of the park. Hit
But
it out
see
of the
now,
park.
but see now, I'm catching on.
Right. So one of the things Maria said to me was, "You're being deaf. You're not listening to me." And then I looked at it. I was like, "Am I being deaf?" Yes, I am not listening to the fact that she is not able to understand the pointer that I'm giving to her is not being, like she's not at that level of consciousness yet to absorb my statements. And I'm being deaf about it. I'm continuously like coming up with another solution, another solution. Yes, I am being deaf. So, there's no anger, there's no irritation. It's like you accept, yes, I am being deaf in that moment. I'm not listening to what her state of consciousness is in the moment, right? And there is no, that's the nishkarm, right? That's the non-polarity state of consciousness, that you absorb it and you say, yes, I am being deaf, and it goes away. Like you let it pass through. It's not any resentment, or it's not a negative emotion that's left within us. So let's look at the question. Martin says, I've been watching the 2001 Omega Retreat of 8 sessions, and brings me as much joy as suffering. I try to be in presence and in thoughtless awareness, but I get so tense in my shoulders. And I try to keep in mind all the concepts and words Eckhart says in this retreat. And I feel overwhelmed with zero compassion towards myself. I'm bipolar, and I feel I'm playing with fire, that I'm fueling the possibility to get into another maniac state by forcing me to this shift in consciousness. My question is, how can I accept this moment? Allow everything as it is without getting so stressed. Also, it's almost impossible for me to feel the inner body. I practice every tip Eckhart gave. Travis, since you will be leaving early, how about you give your input and then you may have to leave. Then I'll move from April. Kelly, we'll answer the questions. Thank you so much.
Mhm. Well, I think I just want to start, by just acknowledging just reading this. I can feel the tension. I can feel the pain. I can feel the stress, and I just want to acknowledge that and just I don't know, just acknowledge that and send some love to, I guess it's Martine, and well, gosh, I can say, I mean, what comes up for me, I can speak from my own experience. When I was younger, I was diagnosed with ADD, and they wanted to give me, medication for it, and I took it for a little while, and then I stopped. And I also, experimented with a lot of drugs when I was younger, and had a lot of really pronounced awakening experiences and powerful insights. And I had times where it was all so hard. I had a time where I thought I was going to go crazy. My family was worried about me. And at a certain point in all of that, I think something happened. I think I dropped in a way where I think there was some part of me that just realized that it's up to me, that it's that I have the power, I have the choice to accept and be with what is. That is somehow whether however much I realized it at the time or not, I'm not sure, but I became empowered. And it sounds as though I think it's pronounced Martine, I'm not sure, but I think that's what I'm hearing out of Martine's question is how can I feel empowered? How can I feel as though I can do these things? Because it sounds as though you feel unable. And it's a funny thing, because at a certain point you just do it. You just I don't know how to explain it or how to describe it, and I hope this is coming across in a good way, but just that there's something where one takes responsibility. You take it. It's not given to you. It's not you just make it your own and take it. And so you're not put in charge. You kind of put yourself in charge. And to me, that feels in alignment with that higher power that is beyond the limited aspect of who I am. It's not a taking charge in an egoic way. It's a way of falling in sync with life. And so if the question is how to do that, how does one do that? I would say to play around with it and experiment with it. How to accept this moment and allow everything to be as it is. Go for a walk out in nature. See if you can find some peace with yourself, I know for me, I can have such an active mind, things like going for a jog, because there's just so much jarring movement that maybe, sometimes what I've done, I'd go for whatever, say a half-hour run, and then just immediately from my run, I go sit at the base of a tree and just go into more of a meditation, like just start deep breathing in that state right there. Maybe try something like that where you can just jar it all loose and have some cathartic experience, and then try sitting for, you might have a more effective 5-minute sit after a half-hour run than just sitting right away if you have a very active mind. And so different things work for different people, but there's only so many things that we can do. It's limited. So there's movement, there's exercise, there's nutrition. I know that was a thing for me, like with the attention deficit disorder. I thought I would rather focus on this dealing with nutrition and exercise and meditation than dextroamphetamine or something, It's funny that you would even have a doctor that wouldn't say, have you exhausted all of these things before they offer you something like that? So things, I actually have a simple goofy acronym I've made up for myself called MEDS, which is just meditation, exercise, diet, and sleep. And if you haven't tried all those things, I would try those before I go into any world of pharmaceuticals or anything like that. So those are just basic things. And community, belonging, service. I can never put enough emphasis on how much service has served me. So whether it's volunteering or any of these things, they're going to pull you out of your mind, and bring you into your body, bring you into presence. But we all have to find the way that it works for us, because we're all utterly unique expressions of life, utterly unique individuals. So what works for one isn't going to work the same for another. So I think it's our responsibility to tinker until we find, start to dial in a formula of practice. It takes that dedication and devotion and experimentation to get to that place where we start to go, oh, this is really, I found these things that really work for me. Maybe it's drawing or being creative or making music, or there's all these things that are going to nurture deeper aspects of who we are, help us tap into that. So I'd say experiment and play around and have a playful, as much as one can, playful, easy attitude with just working with it until you find those things that really help you to get rooted and get centered and be able to feel the body, and because that really is the anchor. So
Thank you, Travis. Thank you for the input. I would say the same about nutrition. I've become like a huge, almost fanatical following medical medium. If anybody has heard of him, Anthony William, and he's done a book called Cleanse to Heal. And for Martine, what I'll do is I'll look up bipolar, because it's, I think it's metal detox that you need. There's too much metal in the body, mercury, and we don't realize. I didn't even realize that we use stainless steel spoons, right? We cook in stainless steel, so all that is metal toxins getting into our body when we use. So that's why you see purists drink out of a glass bottle. They don't use a metal container, right? So Voss, the $8 bottle of water, is cherished because it's in a glass, straight out of the sparkling stream into a glass bottle. That's what they say. So I will post that on this comment section, Martine, for bipolar. So I agree, the nutrition helps. I think even for ADD, isn't it gluten? No sugar, no gluten is recommended. because sugar increases the, I don't know, the, so it's like, our body is made out of 5 elements. What is it? Water, air, fire, ether. What did I miss? Earth, right? So a person that's airy, right? ADD is what I don't have attention. So it's airy, and fire. Bipolar is fire because you're so you have too much of fire and air, and you need to balance. So hydration, drink cucumber water, drink celery, drink pH balanced water, alkaline water, right? This is essential. If you go to a good Whole Foods or a good store, then they will provide you with alkaline water. So drink alkaline water. So balance out your water, your earth. So walk with barefoot, if possible on dirt, right? And in grass, so that earths you. And do a lot of, look up how do you earth yourself. That'll help. Meditation earths ourselves. I know Kelly will talk about Qigong. So April, since he's going to take a long time to speak about how Qigong is going to help, I'll let you speak, April, first. Thank you, Travis.
Yeah, I was thinking Kelly could probably address the feeling the body part. But the first thing that I noticed in this question is they're trying to do meditation and have awareness, but at the same time keep all of Eckhart's concepts, thinking of Eckhart's concepts. And that it isn't going to work. We can't think and have peace, right? So I'm thinking that maybe if they just didn't worry about, oh, Eckhart said this and Eckhart said that, and just allowed themselves to be, right? Just relax, because that's he's getting so much pressure. Well, you're trying to remember all these. How many concepts does Eckhart have? A lot, right? So that's the one thing that I noticed right away is to stop trying to do it perfectly. Stop trying to remember all the concepts. Just let it go. Just be, relax. Again, I am a big component of using sound meditation for energy work. Like tonight, I will probably fall asleep with a sound meditation set to the hertz for sinuses because it's coming back. They could put, they have, if you type in sound meditation, my toe hurts, you'll get 100 videos. It can be anything under the sun. So you can put it in for bipolar, depression, stomach ache, anxiety, calm nerves. So they might try that as well. The other key thing that I noticed here was that, and I think it's because they're trying too hard and they're trying to be perfect. Obtaining awareness, they're afraid of going into a manic state, but awareness is peace. It's different than manic. They're trying to make this conscious shift and they're afraid. So there's fear, right? That I'm going to get all manic and I'm going to be manic. It's completely different from manic. It's peace, it's inner peace, it's calmness, right? So don't be afraid that you're going to get into a manic state. A manic state is completely different. Manic state is where you're driven, but you can't figure out how to stop. You know you're driven too, but you still can't figure out how to stop. So it's completely different. And the inner body, the only thing that I know that really does work for me really well, that I have pulled from Eckhart, is when he says, can you notice your hand? Can you just notice? And do you know it's there if you close your eyes? So those are the things that I would do in this one, especially letting yourself go and stop judging yourself.
Thank you. Thank you so much, April. Perfect. So that would be the other suggestion that I would have given, because with everyone, I've shared Sacred Acoustics. Sacred Acoustics is known for binaural beats, and they have a proprietary blend of how they do their meditation recordings. I would strongly recommend what April is saying, sound meditation. And we had quite a few, like Yoga Nidra, that even Eileen, quite a few people have loved. That is for bipolar. Yoga Nidra is recommended for bipolar patients. So there are quite a few. So you have to try it, which one suits you, right? Because they're different frequencies. Some are at alpha, some are at alpha plus theta, some are at beta frequencies. And they're like 3 hertz, 6 hertz frequencies. So which one takes you deeper? To some, the theta takes them deeper into an expanded state of awareness. And if you're afraid of going into, like April pointed, picked up that pointer from you, that you're feeling that you're going to get into a manic state, then do it under supervision. Have somebody watch you. Say, hey, I'm going into meditation. Can you watch over me? Can you see that maybe I'll get into some kind of manic state, or I may physically hurt myself? If something of that is making you fearful about going into meditation, then let somebody supervise you, like keep watching you while you're going. And Sacred Acoustics is so simple. You lie down in your own bed and you put on a headset and just listen, right? And watch your breath. You can use different techniques. I do watch my breath, or use the different cadence of breath work to focus, right? Because I've done an 8-9 hour, very mentally intensive day. So I want to come to 0 point, like within the first 20-30 minutes, I want to come to 0 point from 60 miles per hour, 100 miles per hour. So thank you, April. Beautiful. Yes, up, down.
I have to take off, but I just want to say thanks to everyone and
Beautiful, Travis. It was
glad
an
to be
honor.
here with you guys.
Thank you.
The time I have, so
We
okay.
loved it. Thank
All right.
you. See you
All right.
next week. Bye.
Okay. All right.
Good night.
Take care, you guys.
Kelly, it's all yours, and it's beautiful that he asked about the inner body. So I know you're in authority with your Qigong practice. So go ahead.
Thank you, Pudam. Thank you, everyone, for everything that you said. Yeah, where to start? I had a really, really good friend. Well, one of my best friends in university was bipolar. And she had to experiment with a lot of things to figure out what worked for her. And she did use medication, and she did use meditation. And she had a very specific and deliberate sequence in her day to help her and monitor her nervous system, and to diffuse triggers, and to help her when she felt her nervous system was getting wound up, when she'd get stuck and she'd begin to get manic. One of the things that she used is she'd constantly rub her hands, which is an acupressure, like engaging the acupuncture points in the hands just by massaging the hands is really, really effective. It's reflexology. And at night, she would generally do that and massage her feet as well. She's also a big fan of baths, and baths with Epsom salts, because Epsom salts help the body detox, and they help the nervous system as well. And as a result, I tried them in university and became a huge fan of them. I'm like, where's my lavender? Where's my candles? Bring me the Epsom salts, dang it. And so, huge fan of Epsom salt baths. And the space that you can get into when you are in water, when your nervous system is surrounded by water, is very conducive to promoting a relaxed space. Again, I will not pretend to understand the exact space that you were dealing with, Martin, or Martine. But the reality is that you are dealing with an atypical nervous system. So the tips and the tricks that Eckhart, as you said, they are not working for you, and you are concerned that trying to make them work, forcing them to work, is winding you up into a manicness to try and figure out how to get them to work for you, because you want this. And wanting to change and shift your consciousness is awesome. Very, very noble. And what I feel is that you have to be aware that you have this atypical neurological situation that you are dealing with, this living experience, living with a different type of nervous system that is triggered differently. I'm a huge fan of binaural beats. I'm a huge fan of toning. Excellent suggestion, April. I tone all the time. I repeat mantras is one of the things, one of the leftovers from being a Tibetan Buddhist for a little while. Dug through that for myself. Mantras and toning is a great way to help shift the mind, I find. Even toning Om, or finding a mantra, Om Namah Shivaya, one of those, or even Om Mani Padme Hum, like just the repetition is conducive to helping your nervous system shift. And I completely agree with what April said in terms of how you want to simplify what you're trying to do, and not trying to make all of Eckhart's tips work all at once, all the time, because that's admirable and awesome, but that's you're forcing the issue. And to just simplify and just sit with your breath. Poonam, your suggestion of just counting breaths, listening to the breaths, huge fan of that. It's hard at first, but it's simple, and it is very effective. It goes to the repetition. This is where the Qigong comes in, where my practice of Qigong has deepened my ability to meditate, to listen to my body, and to calm my body down. Now, to get very specific, I know that some of my past students that have had either manic depression or who have been diagnosed as bipolar, even a couple gentlemen that were schizophrenic who came to my classes years and years ago, found profound benefit to the standing stake Qigong that I teach. And one of the reasons why I love the standing stake so much is because it is so simple. You stand there, you hold a posture, and it rewires your nervous system because your brain is not used to being still. Yes.
I have a suggestion.
Uh-huh.
Did you want to create a video and post it to the group page on how to do the standing stake?
I actually have one on my YouTube channel. I have a very basic one.
So we need to post it
Sure. Cool.
to the group.
It was actually, there's a gentleman by the name of Wong, and if I mess up his name, it's because I do not speak Chinese. Wang Shangcai, and he created the art of I Ching. He was a Xingyi grandmaster, and he created this art of standing stake and using standing postures as a martial art that was then referred to as Dan Chin, the great accomplishment fist, or I Ching mind boxing, mind, heart, intention boxing. And it was just so simple. It was all based on just standing stake and drills. And one of the things that he did, and he wanted to share it with people and get people to understand the benefit of standing stake, is that he actually went into mental sanatoriums in China and cured people of schizophrenia, bipolar, and manic depression. And there's 2 or 3 other things where, and I'll look for the interview that has this list, but there's literally like 3 to 6 months to 18 months in terms of how out of alignment you, if you will, a person's nervous system once. And I know from my own personal experience that my depth of calm and awareness of myself and ability to step into observation has been profoundly amplified and accelerated by doing standing stake. It's not the easiest thing to get into because people's nervous systems are generally already in agitation and need space to wind down, calm down, and be centered and aligned. But this interview that I read was very specific about Wong wanting to help his community and going into these mental sanatoriums in China and teaching for free this sequence of postures. April, these are the ones that I actually went through in my class with you. And that's probably why your energy just went, oh, right? Because like for me doing standing stake, if I've had a bad day or a rough day or I'm agitated or triggered, all I have to do now is just find my horse stance, just sit in a low horse stance and just breathe a few times and everything just, you know, calms down and everything is still. It's taken me a while to get there, but I know that the benefit is real and is substantial, and all it does, like even 30 seconds, just starting with 30 seconds or a minute even, is really all a person needs. So yeah, Poonam, I'll send you the link for the video. Again, there have been great suggestions all around, and my own personal experience with my Qigong practice, especially the standing stake, because it is so simple. It's very potent at opening and relaxing the body and allowing the nervous system to not tense the body up. Also, a little secret that I learned, A535. If you have access to a topical analgesic and you have a problem with your shoulders tensing up and holding a lot of tension in your shoulders, I kid you not, I went through a period of about a year when I was learning standing stake and finally getting into it and Bagua, and all I could do was this and try and like grab my ears with my shoulders. And I just sort of went, I can't do this. And then I saw, I don't know, it was Joe Namath ad for A535. I'm going, what the heck? And it worked. And it worked. So that's, you know, one of my little tricks through the years that I've learned in terms of if my system is really tensing up and I know I'm trying to let go of something, it's something that I will try if things aren't working otherwise.
And the tensing up actually is a contraction. It's an emotional contraction, right?
It's a self-defense thing. It's an emotional armor thing of tensing up. It's that instinctive, deep, primal thing of like, I have to protect myself.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Kelly. And you can sign up for Kelly's classes, right?
Yep, I still have 10 spots. I have 10 free classes for
10 more?
Yeah, I know.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you for the input. Eileen, do you have anything? I didn't see Lakshmi ask any questions. She didn't show
No.
up.
She was here. She shared a quote for somebody else, but
She didn't ask
she didn't
questions.
ask any questions. I don't know. I know. She really got her answer last week for the one that's been really getting her for a while now. She's probably still shining from that.
Do you have anything for
from-
Martin?
Yes, for me, like, and I think I talked about this last week. I think that yes, Lakshmi said no questions this time. Sorry. So for me, like I was going through so much when this all started a little over a year ago. And I think I shared it last week. Like for me, I couldn't do anything with Eckart's work or figure out in like inner body stuff. I'm still working on that, but until I got that stillness and that like peace. And for me, like I had to learn them, like just guided meditation first. And when I had an accountability for that, where I was meditating, and for me, initially, it was just 15 minutes every morning. It was the first thing I did. Um, when I had that stillness, then suddenly I could kind of comprehend and learn these other practices. But so I think Travis mentioned like running. I know for me years ago when I tried to get to a spot of peace, like that was for me what I was able to do at that time. Now that was probably like 10 years ago, but just that morning run every day. But for me, again, I really think it came down to accountability when you start on this journey. Like you have to have something that's going to keep you coming back every single day and doing it to get that stillness. And then you can kind of try out these different things. And I think it's important to know that, like Travis said, there's so many things that are out there. Walking meditation, guided meditation, silent meditation, sound meditation. There's so many things that can bring you stillness and peace. Doesn't have to be the same thing that Eckhart may do or somebody else may do. There's so many things out there, but for me, I really think it comes down to accountability. And so if someone who's struggling as much as they seem to be, you kind of have to let go, like April said, because I actually, when I first started meditation, I didn't even think I was doing it correctly to be successful. I thought I was awful at it because my mind would be going, and I'm like, this can't be possibly how it's supposed to be. And it wasn't until I did a guided meditation that talked about the monkey mind and how like that's normal and that you just have to accept the monkey mind, and then once you accept it, it kind of quiets. And sure enough, once I was like, okay, well, it is what it is. It's going, it's going. It's not, it's not. And as soon as I surrendered to that, like it quieted. And then the practice became much more deep. So I think that they have lots of options, but definitely needing to get to a place where you have to accept where you're at the moment. And then once you accept, the suffering won't be as bad.
Thank you for that, Eileen. I appreciate it. I think that's perfect because even I had that same problem, Eileen. Like I would just do it for 20 minutes, not realizing that initially just 20 minutes is not sufficient. You have to sit with it for a lot longer.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. I think we should wrap up because it's 20 minutes past 8, so it's more than an hour. What I would say to summarize what I heard everyone say on the panel was you have to dig deep, right, to look at each and every life situation in your past and actually try and learn from it. I just went through, module 5 of Dr. Eben Alexander's coursework. And in there, he talks about how we have a final life review when we go through a near-death experience or pass away. So a near-death experience person is actually coming back into this life to explain to us what happens during death, right? And every human goes through a life review. So what he was talking about was during the life review, what you are taught is you took this birth and, Eckhart does not talk about soul and soul contracts or like April brought this point out a few weeks back, right? That there is a soul contract. So you have to go to teachings like Dr. Eben Alexander to understand that yes, we are soul groups and there is a soul contract with everyone that was So do your life review while you're alive. Like in this moment, go do your life review and learn your lessons from the life review, because that's why that life experience was given to you. Like if April and Eileen went through an abandonment with the mother may intuitively know that I need to give up this child, right? I'm not going to be a good enough mother to this child. I don't have enough maturation of body and mind to take care of this child. Maybe the father does, right, April? In your case, your mother may have said that, but then what do we make out of that story? Oh, my mother abandoned me. And then, so the life review is my mother having the compassion for the unconsciousness of the mother, right? That yes, she should have given me up. That was my soul contract with my mother. And yes, it is okay for her to give me up, because look where all those experiences brought me, to the spiritual teaching. Now I know how to be in that state of unconditional love. So he talks about this tapestry, that how we are interconnected. The other thing we talked about is listen to each and everything, like listen to each and every experience, whether it's a dream experience, like Travis was explaining that he got a dream. Listen to your dreams, listen to your experiences of the present moment. He called, Dr. Ibn Alexander said it's called an Indra's nest, Indra's web, I think, net, Indra's net, right? That everything is like a pearl reflecting back to each other. If something happens here, how does it almost is like monarch butterfly effect, right? It flaps its wings, but then a hurricane is caused somewhere, or a tornado is caused somewhere else. So we are that way. So understand that tapestry in your life review. And then Karen Noel, who's his partner, gave this example again back to the a daughter. Like Karen Noel had a spiritual teacher. The spiritual teacher was walking a daughter through a regressive life review, right? What do they call it? Use hypnotic regression to do a review. This daughter's mother died of cancer, and the daughter, when she was little, hears her mother say, my daughter should never have been born, right? So all her life, she had these dysfunctional relationships, dysfunctional, what have you, right? When she went through it with did the regression therapy with the spiritual teacher, she found out her mother meant that I am going to pass away. I'm not going to be there for my daughter. I shouldn't have had a child if I was going to pass away that quickly in that child's life, right? So see how a perspective, like what is the compassion? So take your present life situation and have a broader perspective about what is that situation that I'm judging and I have a resentment about, and what is the broader perspective about it, right? That's what Karen Noel was saying. There is always the compassionate perspective, right? And we need to, that's what we need to do if we do a life review while we are living, is look at each of the situations that we would judge or have unforgiveness for, and look at the compassionate side of it. So your ex-wife may be like the most beautiful spiritual teacher for you, Kelly.
One of
So
them.
I'll do one round. What do you all have to say about that? That have a broader perspective about that there is always a compassionate side to every life situation. We can go back into our life. We can do our life review in this present moment, right? We don't have to die and our spirit, because we've taken birth in this lifetime. That non-physical entity took birth to learn these lessons, to move us towards unconditional love. We've gone through that a few weeks back with April. Kelly said the same thing. April has said the same thing, right? That's what we are moving towards, is unconditional love. So how do we do the review while living and have a compassionate, broader perspective? April, I'll let you start. Thank you.
We do it just exactly like you just said it. Because I wanted to be well, I really just wanted peace and to be happy. I have asked this question a million times. Why do we come here? Why come here? I just, if I'm on the other side and I am just all fluffy and happy, why, what is, it's insane to me to come here. So I have always had this deep question, like, what is the purpose of coming here? And that's part of, searching and searching for that answer led me to one spiritual teacher after another. And it's also because of all of the things that I have been through in my life. And the moment, though, that I was able to do exactly what you were saying, the moment I was able to look at all of these people and realize that, one, there was a contract. Two, like I said before, I call them my angels in disguise. They are my angels in disguise, because without them, I would not have learned these lessons. I would not be who I am. I would not have searched far and wide for all these answers. So that's exactly how you do it. The moment that you can accept that it was all perfectly designed, that everything has happened for a reason. My mom, left because, one, I needed to go with my dad. I needed to get what my dad was going to give me. I needed that. I would be a completely different person had my mother raised me. That doesn't mean I don't love her, right? So I have now come to accept overall that it is perfectly designed, everything.
Perfect. Thank you, April. Kelly, did you want, how do we get to a broader perspective while we do a living life review, as in this present moment? And that requires a high degree of presence as well. You can't do it from your ego, because your ego will waffle and say, no, 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 I need to not have forgiveness for that person, right? So
Yeah, your ego, your monkey mind, your programming, your shadow, your reptilian patterns will constantly want you to judge and separate and not be loving and kind. They'll want you to be angry, and they'll want you. I feel that while doing a life review, in terms of looking back in hindsight, understanding that everything that you have experienced has literally created the person that you are. And that every experience that you've had, every little experience, every little interaction with everyone has learning about who you are and why you are who you are. And my belief is that that is the way that it is. Everything is about learning how to be myself, how to listen and understand and accept who I really am, who I am in my heart. And this takes patience, and this takes a lot of courage to look back and accept and allow that everything that has happened, I mean, when you think about everything that has actually happened, has led to the present moment and who you are now, right now. It's mind-boggling the amount of, coincidences and convergences and multi-layered interactions of people coming together to give you the information, to reflect back at you everything that you're holding on to cause you to feel yourself and to feel the present moment. Doing a life review is always an interesting space to be in. quite simply accepting and forgiving, allowing yourself to feel all those spaces of everything that you've experienced, and holding on to anything that is in the past is, you know, a really hard thing to do, and it's really hard on the heart, and it is something that our ego likes to use against us to cause us to judge our past, to cause us to judge what we feel, you know, should have been better, or you know, should have been like this. It's not possible to go back into the past and change things that way. Feeling how everything has led you to the present moment and just accepting it.
Perfect, Kelly. Because I was watching one of Eckhart's videos in which somebody asked him that question, how do you consciously look for a solution, right? And he talks about, if I told you that if your house burned down, right, you were the co-creator of your house burning down, I would lose almost half of you, right? Because the ego does not want to take responsibility. And then he says, isn't it better? And you know, he says, and then you went to a therapist that was doing the hypnotic regression therapy and took you back into your past lifetimes, and you went, oh, this happened and this happened and this happened, and because of this happened, now my house is burning down, right? Why do you need that narrative? Accept it as if you had chosen it. Isn't that much more simpler, he says. So can you accept it as if you have chosen your house burning down? When you get to that level of acceptance, then you're a spiritual master. So thank you for that lesson. Appreciate it, Kelly. Aline, one last minute words, last minute wisdom on broader perspective on looking back, life review on your experiences.
I think I've done a lot of life review tonight. And my present moment is an 8-year-old who
Once you go to bed,
wants mommy to go to sleep. So I don't think I'm gonna add anything else, but thank you.
as always, deepest humility and gratitude, infinite gratitude. You all have been incredibly amazing today. So thank you for all the contributions, and thank you for the contributions out there. Lakshmi, I'm sure Christina is there, Martine, Gracie may be there. So thank you everyone, and many blessings. We will see you again next week.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a fantastic evening. Bye.
Night.